On a flight to a conference in Canada last year, I had the occasion to watch the movie In Search of Greatness. The movie set to expose the secrets of superstar performance in sports. People in Edmonton probably know one of those superstars well, the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Enthused by his personality, I watched Gretzky in a couple more films. In each, I thought he was speaking about Israeliness. The secret codes of his excellence sounded very Israeli to me. Gretzky was talking about lessons from his father, like always being prepared. But there were other lessons. My dad made sure, he said, that I always have love for the game. Do write it down, please. Always have love for the game. I think part of it is in your blood, he added. It is in your DNA. It's a combination of excellence and also they don't let that boy in them leave. So note this too, they do not let that boy in them leave. The greatest athletes in any sport really seem to enjoy the game when there seems to be more on the line, he said. Childish enthusiasm is what separates superstars from stars. Love for the game and childish enthusiasm are some of the cultural codes which underlie the Israeli startup nation phenomena. Those codes motivate Israeli innovation and creativity. Rather than drowning you with information that I'm not the expert of, let me give you 34 seconds with the man who wrote the famous book about Israel, Startup Nation, Dan Senor. Whatever he said then in 2009 in the interview, tripled the numbers to get recent updates.
What's fascinating to us, Israel and the Middle East get a lot of coverage, but one side of the story that gets very little coverage is that Israel is the fastest growing, one of the most dynamic, entrepreneurial, and innovation-based economies on the planet that barely got hit by the global economic crisis in 2008. More Israeli companies on NASDAQ than all of Europe combined, than all of India, China, Korea, Japan combined. More global venture capital each year going into Israel on a per capita basis than the United States, 2.5 times more than the United States, 30 times more than Europe, even in 2008 when the global economy was melting down.
Allow me to share some thoughts about the cultural assets that set Israel as a startup nation. I bring voices from my studies of culture and scientific innovation in Israel. My interviewees, close to 300 scientists, are leading Israeli professors in the sciences and the humanities. I asked them to compare Israeli with the German and American science. And though excellence in science is often evaluated by different standards from sports, you will soon hear how accurate Gretzky's secrets to excellence are. Let me begin with this dictum: always have love for the game. My analysis found that when Israeli scientists describe their vocation, they employ a rich vocabulary of love and passion words. I call it a language of fire. They speak of sparks of ideas, of burning flames of motivation. They speak about an inner drive, emotional drive that pushes them forward. They clearly have love for the game of science. As a senior chemist said, quote, I leave the job all the time. Not that I don't do other things, but I think about my studies all the time. I mean, I really enjoy what I do, so it keeps me busy. I mean, this work is also my main hobby in the end. A microbiologist thought that love for hobbies should indeed be brought into the lab, as hobbies might enrich science. Don't be afraid of it. I like dance, he loves music, he likes to read books. Bring those interests in. Follow your passion, interviewees say. Turn passion into your mission. They think that passionate motivations drive people to achieve more. As an Israeli archaeologist said, it's a hobby. I always say to people in Israel, don't you dare complaining. The things you love most are your work, so how dare you complain? In Germany anyway, it's different. They come to work in Germany, but Israeli scientists do stuff out of love. Another Israeli archaeologist who studied in Germany agreed. I think it really characterizes all Israeli researchers in almost every field. That's right. We come to our studies with lots of emotion, with a sense of genuine curiosity, of genuine desire to connect with our history. So we're different from German scientists in that regard. Yes. Let me remind you of an educational royal commission here in Canada, which published in 1994 a report, probably after speaking with Gretzky, titled For the Love of Learning. This is exactly the Israeli expectation. You do stuff because you love it, because you are passionate about it. Indeed, Israeli professors expect their students to love what they do too. This attitude contrasts with norms in German science, where passion is actually frowned upon. This point was corroborated by a chemist. A German doctoral student comes to work under conditions that an Israeli would never agree to. In Germany, there are strict working hours and reports, but they really come to work there. In contrast, an Israeli doctoral student enjoys a lot of freedom. This provides room for flourishing. I'm very picky about students, and I think I've always looked for students who are passionate about the project. A medical engineer pointed to the role of love and passion in his lab. He had a graduate student who worked on her dissertation. He worked on a different project. At some point, he said, after repeatedly telling her about his project, her eyes lit up, and his flame lit hers. He said, at one point she became enthusiastic, and once she put her doctorate aside and devoted herself for some 6 months. It's been a year of full devotion to this project. She makes all possible connections. She has connected my intuition with real science, with examples, with explanations. There are just wonderful people here. They are wonderful, Gretzky would say, because they maintain love for the game. This is the norm in Israel. You do what you do not because of the money. You do it because you love it. And we are taught to pursue our passion and to maintain our love for the game. Let me move on to what Gretzky defined as childish enthusiasm. True scientists are expected to be mature and sober, to be rational and objective. This is the norm in German science, in the US just as well. But in Israel, this is not the case. Just as Israeli scientists maintain love for the game, they also maintain their inner child, their emotionality active. As a brain scientist told me, we always boast about our wonderful creativity because we allow our crazy thoughts into the open, and we take pride in making something out of nothing. When I met my German colleagues, I felt like an unruly child. Other scientists spoke about an Israeli propensity for intellectual courage. Their descriptions of their intellectual style sound like fearless kids on a daredevil ride. They engage in stuff that scientists in Germany are too cautious taking or dare to think about. In comparison, their childish courage, they say, allows them to go into unknown realms. It allows them to venture into new areas and connect ideas that others deem to be in disconnect. As a physicist explained, I would say something like that. I think German research is very basic and systematic, and I like it. But in a way, it curtails their imagination. I mean, they don't take big risks. Look, German high-tech is less successful than its Israeli counterpart because they fear failing. You are not allowed to make mistakes in Germany. For us, Israelis, what are the chances of success for a startup? Out of 10, 9 fail, only 1 succeeds. But when we fail, we try again, and finally, we succeed. The point is that Israelis do not fear failure. Israeli startups and Israeli scientists pay little price for trying and failing. Rather, we are encouraged to take bold risks, like children, Israelis do not rationally calculate what might be the consequences of failure. We just push on. In 1 of 10 attempts, we get a hit. This is why more than 300 multinational companies decided to station their R&D centers in Israel. They know that Israelis push the envelope of knowledge. They know that while Israel may not be a top engineering environment, its culture pushes the spirit of innovation to its hilt. So yeah, there's something childish about Israelis, surely in comparison with German soberness and with American systematic approaches. Israelis find little obstacle in venturing across predefined boundaries. They pay little respect for authority. They are clearly disobedient in facing hierarchy. They grow up in a culture that celebrates egalitarianism, autonomy, and disobedience. This is part of the Jewish tradition, with Abraham and Moses arguing with God. But it is also inculcated by the IDF, the Israeli army, whose military ethics demands disobedience when confronting unlawful commands. This requires a tinge of chutzpah, daring to face authority and hierarchy. The case of George Floyd in Israel, the bystanders would have moved the cops away. We expect people to stand up in real time and challenge authority whenever a black flag rises above the scene. Authority in Israel is in defense mode. As an astrophysicist told me, in Israel you have to play defense with your students because they are constantly on the offensive. They challenge your ideas. They do not accept your professorial cathedra as a point of honor. They push you, and you have to respond and maintain openness to their ideas. Those intellectual challenges mother new ideas. Furthermore, my research finds that maintenance of the inner child drives Israelis to be easygoing or casual in venturing into the unknown. They are intellectually playful. They do not take knowledge seriously. They are improvisational, flexible, and fluid in a way. The easygoing culture allows Israeli scientists to initiate new courses of research from one day to the next. You have an idea, you immediately set for testing it. According to a brain researcher, quote, "In Germany I cannot do stuff like I do here in Israel. Let's say I have a lovely idea. I'll pick up funding from wherever. I'll do it and we'll arrange a pilot study, we'll write a grant and go for it." It's a mindset that's completely absent there. In Germany, they do stuff very seriously, very slowly. It has a lot of rights, but no, they would not look for alternatives, nothing. They do not cut corners. By looking for alternatives and by cutting through bureaucratic corners, Israeli scientists push for innovation and creativity. By maintaining an inner child, they are quick to find new paths and new possibilities. Great, but some would say I like a critical take on Israeli culture. Let me fend off by saying that when Wayne Gretzky was 5 years old, he came back from a match with kids twice his age complaining that he didn't get a trophy, though he won the game. "By the time you're grown up," his father said, "we will not have enough room for your trophies." We in Israel need to take this parental example to heart. Let me close by saying that when Wayne Gretzky joined Team Canada for the Olympic Games of 2002, he set 3 pillars: skill, creativity, teamwork. It worked perfectly for Team Canada. Those same pillars stand at the basis of Israeli innovation and academic excellence. I hope to have convinced you that Israeli culture supplies Israeli scientists and entrepreneurs with the tools that Canadians also found to be crucial, namely, always have love for the game, always maintain childish enthusiasm.